Now to a new installment in our Backstory series, where we aim to provide you with substantive reporting about one key figure in this presidential campaign, totally apart from all of that punditry or horse race coverage. And we are eyeing this race at a time of mounting expectations about Joe Biden's running mate. He's been talking up a ticket, offering gender and potentially racial diversity, while others are demanding it.
And I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. Among them, there are 4 black women. You have to have someone who you know.
Would Kamala Harris fit that bill?
I think so.
A black woman running mate is necessary.
Some of us are wanting to see a black woman on the ticket as vice president.
We believe that the vice president must choose a black woman.
Joe Biden saying his short list does include 4 black women. And our series will be reporting on several of these potential contenders, beginning right now with one of them, his very recent rival, Kamala Harris. She's nationally known for her presidential run, but Harris is actually very new to national politics. In fact, could be easy to forget right about now with everything that's gone on, but Harris just entered the U.S. Senate in the most recent presidential cycle, winning her first federal office the same night as Donald Trump won the White House.
Kamala Harris will replace fellow Democrat Barbara Boxer as the next U.S. Senator from the Golden State.
Have now confirmed that Secretary Clinton has conceded to Donald Trump.
There's one star who hasn't been talked about tonight who is going to be talked about a lot, and her name is Kamala Harris.
What Donald Trump is offering in terms of policy is as radical a departure from normal American politics as anything that has ever happened in any of our lifetimes.
That was November 8th, 2016. Remember it? Harris has been in federal office just as long as Trump. But the bulk of her career and a key reason she's on this short list stems from her many more years as a prosecutor. And she's spoken about how her upbringing as the daughter of 2 immigrant parents informed her views. She went to Howard and then University of California Law School and went straight to work in a DA's office. And she jumped into a 2004 race against the incumbent San Francisco DA at a time when no black woman had ever been a DA across California's 58 offices. Harris won, pledging public safety and smart on crime policies, drawing national notice.
There's a great district attorney in San Francisco whose name is Kamala Harris. She's brilliant, she's smart, she doesn't look anything like anybody you ever see on Law and Order, yet she's tough and she's got a big future. And they call her the female Barack Obama.
Back then, there was plenty of political pressure to be tough on crime. That's a context to keep in mind because things have been shifting fast in the years since. And Harris appeared to walk a line, stressing support for law enforcement and crime fighting while also condemning police brutality and racism.
It is a myth to say that African Americans don't want law enforcement. We do. We want our grandmothers to be able to walk to church and be safe. We want our babies to be able to walk to the park and be safe. What we don't want is racial profiling. What we don't want is excessive force. That's right. What we don't want is to have our civil liberties and civil rights be stripped. But we do want law enforcement.
In office, Harris also pushed some tough enforcement policies, like threatening to jail parents if their children missed school.
We will be prosecuting in cases where we find that there are parents who are not allowing or sending their children to school.
And Harris went from being the only black female DA in that blue state, again out of 58, to becoming California's first black female AG, a barrier-breaking rise. And statewide office spurred talk of higher political prospects. The Senate, the White House. And this is where Harris's career is especially nuanced. Navigating those legal offices is different than the progressive pressures in a very blue state or the National Democratic Party, which has been under pressure to revise its past embrace, as you probably know, of now controversial crackdowns and crime bills. But let's be clear. For decades, Democratic politicians have invoked prosecutor credentials and tough on crime stances with very little blowback. While recently, Harris and other Democrats have faced criticism for now being part of a system that jails more people per capita than most countries on earth, including a disproportionate number of poor people and people of color. As DA, Harris touted rising conviction rates, and she shared her own pride at policies that she said were sending more people to prison. Now, Harris's allies say the job here for prosecutors is to win cases they bring, not lower conviction rates. Critics say she was wrong to emphasize prison when a core reform is pushing alternatives to prison for many of these offenses. Now, it's worth noting how some of these issues were viewed at the time. Harris's conviction rate and some of those policies were touted by some as a plus.
With a 90% conviction rate, superstar prosecutor Kamala Harris made history when she was elected California's first African-American female district attorney.
San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris. It is great to have you with us.
San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris started breaking ground the moment she stepped into office.
So it's worthwhile for accuracy to see how everyone from Oprah to reporters were looking at that then. But now and recently, you have progressives who argue that Harris's record makes her an imperfect vessel for today's reform agenda, insists she can't simply name herself a progressive prosecutor when running for higher office. They have examples. They point to her fighting a losing battle as AG to keep a wrongfully convicted man in prison after a judge ordered his release, and to a then 25-year-old reality TV contestant from Oakland, Jamal Trulove, whose Harris's office convicted for murder. He was facing up to life in prison. But that case had some key holes. No physical evidence. Over 20 witnesses allegedly saw the victim die, but there was no eyewitness able to clearly identify him. And when one person identified a potentially different person as a suspect, detectives allegedly pressed them back on whether maybe it was still that defendant, Trulove. And why am I telling you all this? Because the facts matter. Judges found prosecutors did fabricate information and mislead the jury, and committed highly prejudicial misconduct, leading to a rare reversal of a murder conviction. In another trial, a jury found police detectives were making up evidence and hiding things that would have helped him show his innocence. A jury gave him $13 million. Trulove himself spoke out about how it felt to have Harris signing those briefs against him.
You see Kamala Harris' name at the bottom. And now it's starting to feel a little personal. I'm not necessarily saying I'm looking for an apology, but some acknowledgement from her that she could have messed up will be, of course, that'll be huge.
That's a single case that drew scrutiny, but there are others, including a judge finding other mishandling of evidence that led to hundreds of cases tossed. Now, Harris's allies argue any government lawyer will lose some cases and have rulings against their handling of evidence sooner or later, especially over time in appeals. Harris herself points to her own reform agenda, citing racial bias training for law enforcement on that when she had those jobs, improving the tracking of police killings, and launching a program to help some drug offenders get jobs that sparked others around the nation. Now, as Biden considers Harris during this reckoning for race and police in America, she also makes an argument that you might be hearing again soon if she were picked. The idea that almost any prosecutor's office will face these criticisms. Okay. But she asks, do progressives and minorities and civil rights advocates want to be on the inside to make these tough calls or not?
When we want to change and reform systems, we should also be on the inside where the decisions are being made as a way to make change. I decided to go up the rough side of the mountain. Yes. I do realize that. Prosecutors have an incredible amount of power. Don't we want that the people who are making the decision are also the people who attend our church, whose children play with our children? Don't we want that? Are we saying that we should not be prosecutors?
These are real dilemmas to think through. Anyone rushing to tell you they have it all figured out one way or the other might not have done enough of the thinking. And we should also know that Harris faces all of this pretty much head on. When we partnered on a candidate forum on prison reform inside literally an old prison, you see there, Harris showed up. And when several other candidates didn't, she walked in with us. She spoke to formerly incarcerated people there.
I am the only person on that debate stage who has dedicated their life to reforming this criminal justice system. There are a lot of people who have language now about it, but I would ask you to challenge them, ask them, what have they actually done to reform the criminal justice system? And then I will have more of a conversation with you about my record.
That was her argument there. We show you it here so you can think about it in the context of what you just saw in the way that she approached both tough, harsh, and smart on crime policies. Now, beyond even those specific issues, when Kamala Harris did enter the Senate, boy, she has often shined in the same role that some are objecting to when you think about it, as a tough, no-nonsense prosecutor.
It's a really specific question.
I would like to know the person you're thinking of, because what if there's
I think you're thinking of someone and you don't want to tell us. Has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The president or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
If I could just read this.
But no, please don't, because I actually have read it, and I'm sure most have. My question is very specific. It's a yes or no, please. Sir, I have just a few.
Will you let me? I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
Democrats are certainly looking for someone who makes Trump officials so nervous they admit it under oath. Now, the Biden campaign is vetting every part of these potential running mates' public lives, from ideology and policy to their whole vibe. And Harris has also showed a pretty fun side campaigning. She posted her playlist. She danced on the campaign trail. And, well, this is the beat. So, of course, we did have to ask her about music when we sat down in an earlier interview, talking everything from a Parliament Funkadelic fan's perspective to a question asking her to complete the sentence, Kamala Harris is.
My great regret on my Spotify list is I failed to put on one of my most favorite performers ever, Bootsy.
Bootsy Collins.
Of course.
From P-Funk.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Because
I love Bootsy. I'm Funkadelic. Are you kidding me?
Kamala Harris is.
Almost done with this interview.
Fact check. True. She finished that interview shortly thereafter. She's clearly kept busy, as you see. And we should note, after that aired, the legendary bassist Bootsy Collins responded, shouting her out right back, saying, "That's my girl," end quote. So Harris clearly has Bootsy's vote of confidence. No one knows whether Joe Biden will be following suit, but this is an interesting and important time. Senator Harris stands astride so many fault lines in the Democratic Party and America right now. The demands for diversity and power in this Trump era. A reckoning for a deeply cruel justice system. And then this atavistic debate over who can deliver fundamental change. The experienced people who know the system, who did the work, or new people with zero fidelity to the system's antiquated traditions. Well, if you watch this show, you may know this by now. When we do special reports or this backstory series, we don't try to resolve all these questions, let alone weigh in on who should be the running mate. But we are trying to raise them and look at them with the facts and the history so you can make up your own mind. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.